Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fortified Life podcast, where we are passionate about developing a dependency on Jesus in the marketplace. I'm your host, Jason Davis, aka Mr. Fortify, and every week we have the opportunity to bring on authors, speakers, coaches, CEOs, and leaders of nonprofits, hint, hint, about how they are also putting God back in business. And folks, it is no different this week. And I'm always excited when we have members of the nonprofit community to come on the show. We've had so many impactful episodes, and folks, I'm telling you, this one is going to be impactful. We'll save it a little bit on how we ended up meeting. But folks, before I introduce our guest, let me tell you a little bit about her and her husband. Uh, Wendell and Alena, they are the founders of Trust Your Strength. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to creating awareness of the mental support needed in the neonatal intensive care unit, also known as the NICU, and making a difference for families in need. Studies have suggested an estimate of 70% of parents whose babies spend time in the NICU may grapple with symptoms of depression, yet there are not good screening measures in place to help them. There's so much more that their organization does. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Fortified Life podcast, Miss Alena Smith. Alena, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, share why we started the nonprofit organization, the families we helped, and a little bit of our testimony of how we got here as well.
Absolutely. Well, Alina, I always like to go behind the scenes
Mhm.
because when people go on the website and social media and they start seeing things like Good Morning America and Fox News, and they're like, wait, wow, they're awesome. And we know that everything didn't start off that
Mm.
way. So give us a little bit of background, what's you all's background, and what even made you want to start a nonprofit? Because you know how it is today with social media. They just see the current state of
Mhm.
things, and there's always a story behind it.
Yes, and our story is a true testament of this is God's work. And like you said, it was definitely a tough journey to get here for us becoming parents. So it was an emotional roller coaster. We had some challenges through our time trying to conceive, but our first son, Wendell, who's 14 now, he arrived 2 months early. At the time, we lived in North Carolina. So we knew, okay, we're going to have some time here in the NICU. He was 3 pounds, 12 ounces, and he spent about 5 weeks in the NICU. And he really didn't have any like major challenges. He was just really small. He had asthma, but he outgrew everything by the age of 5. Fast forward to we were trying to conceive again, had some challenges, had some miscarriages in between, but never did we think that once we were finally to conceive Charlie, that we would be in the NICU again. And this time
Mm.
it was for 328 days. So Charlie came 4 months early at 25 weeks, weighing 1 pound. And in the beginning, actually, it was like one day at a time, right? We knew if we spent 5 weeks in the NICU with Trey, that this is going to be a long journey. But throughout the journey, God just kept saying, trust your strength on the hardest days. And I always
Mm.
say, his journey is what brought me closer to God because, when you think about almost a year in the NICU, we have a lot of support from our family and friends, but when they really don't understand the journey and the days are getting longer, it all starts out, we're going to pray for you, but the questions start to turn out to be, when is he coming home? And it was like, I don't know. We stopped asking, when is he
Mm.
coming home? Because when we thought he was coming home at 5 months, he had a setback that landed him on a ventilator. So it was really, truly one day at a time, right? We almost lost him 3 times. He had to be resuscitated and brought back to life. So when I say really, really hard, the biggest challenge was deciding on the tracheotomy that he needed. And it's really ultimately what saved his life. But
Wow.
while I was there, um, like I said, a lot of dark moments and asking God, why are we going through this? And he just kept saying, I'm going to show you why. Right. And I kept hearing, trust your strength, trust your strength. And just being there for a long time, I would look around and I was like, they don't have anything for the parents. And we weren't even honestly thinking about ourselves throughout the journey because we had Trey at home. So I would go in the morning. Thankfully, my job was super supportive. So I didn't have to take my maternity leave right away.
Hmm.
So I would show up with my laptop every day because he was small. I would be there by his bedside. And then at 2, I would leave so that Wendell could come and then be there with him for the night shift. And I would come home with Trey. So we were really in passing. So, when you think about the state of our marriage, we weren't thinking about ourselves. We were thinking about getting our baby home. So that's where Trust Your Strength comes in, saying who's supporting the parents through this journey, right? Parents that
Hmm.
really understand the highs and lows and what you're going through. And then once Charlie came home, he was still on the ventilator. He had oxygen, G2. We literally had nursing services here in the house to care for him.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, once he gets healthy, and I said, God, if you save our baby, I'm gonna give back and help somebody else get through it. And it was like once he got home, 9 months after being here, he got his trach out and he truly started to thrive. He never had a setback, but it was like, okay, now we're on the other side of things of getting him learning to walk, talk, and all the things. But I was like, we cannot forget about the parents that are now coming after us, or even the moms that helped me when I reached out to ask about, having a trach and what it's like, caring for a baby. It really became like, you really have to pour into the people that understand the journey. And that's how
Mm.
Trust Your Strength was formed. I actually first was like, I'm gonna write a book and share, this is my second time. What about the parents that don't know what questions to ask? So I wrote the book called Trust Your Strength, and it was to help
Mm.
moms advocate for their babies. And then came the nonprofit, and I was like, God said, you got to do more. And
Mm.
the crazy thing about it is my mentor at the time, she was like, Alena, your story is just so inspiring. You're going to help all these people. And mentally, I'm just wanting to help families here in Atlanta, right? I'm like, we're going to just
Hmm.
deliver some packages. And, if they have questions, I'm going to be there to answer them. And she was like, no, this story is going to be on Good Morning America. And I was like, I didn't say I want to do all that. I was like, that's too much. I was like, I just want to help a few moms. And I can honestly say that was the first time that I really felt fear, just in
Mm.
life, where in terms of things that I had to set out to accomplish, right? So when you think about starting a nonprofit and wanting to help people, I said on a small scale, but then here's someone telling me, no, it's going to be bigger. And I was like, wait a minute. But then God said, Alena, this is not about you. This is not even
Mm.
about your family, that I used you all to help other people. And I remind them all the time, I'm like, they're 8 now and 14, but I'm like, you all have inspired so many people. And just, trust your strength is, it started with our family, but it's so much bigger than our family, just what we've been able to do in such a short amount of time.
Wow.
That's kind of a
Ale-
summary
that
of how
is
we got there or got
that
here.
is that is powerful, and it has many layers
Hmm.
to it. The first one, Alina, with you and Wendell, there's kind of the mental, emotional aspect
Hmm.
of what you all went through. Then there was, the catalyst of, okay, we're not the only ones dealing with this. As you look back on that time mentally and emotionally, what were some of the things, like you mentioned, we were just trying in survival mode. What do
Hmm.
you tell, not just the mothers, what do you tell the couples now when they're going through something like that? What advice do you give them when you're just in that survival mode?
Lean on each other, lean on
Mm.
each other and turn to God, because that is truly what is going to get you through. And I think the most scariest thing is the unknown, because
Mm.
the days do get long and the journey, and I always tell families, don't compare your journey to someone else. One day in the NICU is one
That's
day too
good.
long, right? But then also too, organizations like us, or just lean on people that can support you through whatever stage it is that you're going through,
Mm.
because it is hard. And I can say the emotions that I had there, I was angry. I was angry at God. I was saying, I was healthy my entire life, but when I wanted to become a mom, I'm like, why is this so hard? But then I understood it was like, this is not about anybody else. This is where God said, I'm going to humble you and say, I am the only person that can help you through this.
Mm.
Right. And I'm like, even though Charlie, we almost lost him, but it's like I never gave up that he would make it out. I always believed like
Yeah.
he's going to be fine. And it was really me having a closer relationship with God, it was like, don't be angry at people not showing up at the hospital because you thought they would needed to come and help you. It was like, no, the only person that can help me is God. And now, going to the hospital, I'm like, if I can be somebody that they can confide in, then I'll be that person too. And then also when you
Hmm.
think about the dads, my husband didn't share his emotions and what he went through for a long time. It started off
Wow.
Treasure Strength for Mamas and Miracles, right? Because I was like, I'm
Hmm.
going to share my story. I'm going to help some moms. But over the few years, dads was saying, what about us? And then I went to my husband and I was like, well, I'm not a man and I don't know what you went through. So are you okay if they come talk to you? And then slowly, but surely, then we connected with an organization called Father Movement. And Chris, he
Mm.
actually was a NICU father himself, and he created
Wow.
a space where our first gala that we had a father's panel, and that's the first time my husband actually spoke out in front of everyone and shared things that I never even knew happened, and with along with some other dads that we honor, and this was like, wow. Now it's not just about the moms, it's the dad too. And it's just like, man, you were going through all of that and I had no idea. We realized again, it wasn't just about the moms, it was about the
Hmm.
dads. And I always tell Chris all the time that I'm so thankful that he created the space that we could bring
Hmm.
in the dads and allow them to be vulnerable and share the things that they were going through. And then when I say not a dry eye in the gala, I like, oh my
Mm.
goodness. And it was an aha moment of men need support too. The
Yeah.
dads need support too, and they're trying to be strong for us. But my husband said that he would go to work and just close his door and cry in his office. But he felt like
Mm.
he had to be strong for me, and I'm just like, a lot of marriages don't even survive going through the things that we went through. So
Yeah.
my advice to parents, again, is just lean on each other, seek therapy, whatever it is that you need, because it's hard on everybody.
Yeah. Wow. That's huge. Uh, Alena, I think what's also in this case, what makes things very different is when people think about a hospital, there's the ER, and I
Mhm.
think everybody understands the severity of the urgency that goes in there. But what a lot of people don't know is just how serious things are in the NICU, the ICU. It's actually the most intense part of the
Mhm.
hospital. So how did that play a role in when you get the news of not just that your child is in the ICU, but then the days start going by. What impact did that have?
As far as being there, is that the question or?
Yeah, just the shock of everybody. You just want a healthy child, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're gonna run some tests, and then all of a sudden, here we go. They're full-fledged in ICU, and then now here goes the journey. You don't know if
Mhm.
they're going to get out tomorrow. You don't know if it's going to be extended. What is that like? Because some people just they don't know that the inner workings of a hospital about when you get admitted to the ICU, there's something going on, and
Mhm.
it's not just standard.
Yeah, and I think it was different for me, and I think it's
Hmm.
different for everyone, right? I think
Hmm.
because we went through it with Trey the first time,
Okay.
mentally, I was prepared. Like, okay, if we had a 3 pounder, we got a baby that's 1 pound now, so we're gonna
Hmm.
be here. So my mental state in the beginning, I literally just took it one day at a time. And I
Gotcha.
think, and because he was hitting his milestones, he was growing. It was really just like watching him gain weight and do all the things
Hmm.
that they said he needed to do. But where things changed was when we were about to be discharged at 5 months,
Hmm.
and he needed to get vaccinations. And we thought about it like, okay, he's still so small. Let's break it over a couple of days. But oh no, it because his lungs was so fragile, it set him back. We actually ended up transferring hospitals from Northside to Children's Hospital of Atlanta Scottish Rite, and it was
Hmm.
starting all over because now he's on the ventilator. It was like,
Hmm.
and we didn't want to transfer, but the doctor came in crying, saying, "I thought about him all weekend. We've done everything. He's the biggest baby here, and we're just not equipped to really care for him." And the children's hospitals, they deal with babies with chronic lung disease, and they can only help him. And we
Hmm.
were scared, but it was starting all over again. And that's why I would say I broke down like mentally for
Mm,
me because it was a different environment. We had got comfortable to this, we had a routine and now we're
mm-hmm.
starting over. The doctors there have to learn him. I know all of the things that's going on with him, but can you think about all the babies? That's where I learned like, some of them overworked and had multiple babies. And I was like, I can answer any question that you have. I know everything about his care, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard. And I would say during the first few months at the hospital, I was just there for my baby. Like I really, unless they were asking me questions about his care, I didn't
Yeah.
want to engage in any conversation. So I always
Mm-hmm.
joke with one of his primary nurses that's like his aunt now. And she was like, Alena, you didn't like me. And I'm like, no, it's not. I didn't like you. I was angry. I was
Yeah.
dealing with a lot of trauma and about why didn't the pregnancy go well? And then all the
Mm-hmm.
things that he was going through, I had guilt, mom guilt of this is my fault.
Mm.
Maybe we shouldn't have tried it to have another baby because now look at all the things that he's gone through and some of the decisions that I had to make. I'm like, is this what he would want? It was hard. So when you think about,
Wow.
like you say, the state of the NICU, it's a lot of the unknowns, but also guilt as a mom that I wasn't able to carry him full term and deliver a healthy baby. So I carried a lot of that.
Wow. Lena, you're really leaning into the mental emotional part there as a mom, and that is a perfect segue to the awareness that Trust Your Strength creates. So
Mhm.
you'll create awareness of the mental support needed when it comes to the NICU and caring for the family. So what are some of the things that the organization does? For the mothers, and I know via partnership for the
Mhm.
dads, but where do you even begin to start with the
Yeah,
moms?
because Charlie is like the poster child for trachs at the Children's Hospital of Atlanta because it was such a hard journey. Like when I say the doctors and nurses, they were invested. Like it got to the point where they were like, this is what he needs to live. And again,
Wow.
I was afraid. I didn't want to do it. We said no for a long time until we had no choice but for him to have the surgery. So the relationships that we built with the hospital and the staff there, we go into the hospital often. They reach out to me and say, "Hey, Alena, I have a family that they're thinking about getting a trach for their child. Can you talk to them?" So we become advocates for that, just to explain the journey and the fear and all the things that we went through, but also sharing his story, how ultimately it's what helped him thrive. So
Hmm.
we go into the hospital often. I'm on the family advisory committee there. So I think it's important going in there. And there's a lot of African American families in there. So I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes the walls come down when they see me and Wendell and our kids come in there to talk to them. So I
Mm.
think the families open up more and share some of the things that they're going through. So we deliver care packages. So that's one part where because like I said, we weren't thinking about ourselves. So then we say, hey,
Hmm.
here's a care package, it's some items for you to, take a moment to do some self-care for yourself.
Hmm.
Then we have self-care events. So I know sometimes it's hard to get parents to leave the hospital to attend those events, but we've been around since 2018 now. So
Hmm.
even families after they leave, we still stay connected and they come to the self-care events and we have different like spa days. We've done
Oh,
retreats for
wow.
couples for them to spend time with each other and reconnect and with other families that have gone through similar journeys. We've had walks as well up Stone Mountain. Our biggest event is the gala. That's our fundraising gala, which is where, because a lot of stuff is so personal when we go into the hospital, and
Hmm.
people see the work that we're doing as far as delivering in the packages, but they don't really hear the parent stories until the gala, because that's when we actually
Got it.
honor the parents and we allow them to share their journey when we give the awards and we honor doctors, nurses. So that's where like people actually get to see the why behind Trust Your Strength at the gala.
My
And it's
goodness.
truly been just so fulfilling just to see the work, like, with you and your wife. And it's like a full circle because we don't hear from a lot of the families when we go, after we leave the hospital. Sometimes we do,
Hmm.
sometimes we don't. But then it's like when I talk to your wife and she's like, we got a package. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it just does my heart so well to see that
Hmm.
the purpose and what we're doing is impacting families.
Yeah, that was so powerful, Alina. And so, folks, what Alina and I met at another nonprofit event, a marketplace ministry I serve in, and one of one of my fellow colleagues, one of my friends, was like, "Hey, Jason, you all should meet." And so that's only God can do stuff like that, Alena. So that's why I said I think we're just getting started
Yeah.
with the conversations that will come in the future.
Yes, for sure.
But Alina, so we've got care packages, events, walks, the big bash and the gala. Um, Now the medical professionals, because folks, I don't want you to miss this. I feel like Alina, when people go through things together, you get closer, and probably a part of the economy that we just kind of expect them to do their job and that's it is healthcare. You know, hey,
Mhm.
administer care, medication, whatever, get me all healed up and I'm on my way. But inviting the medical community to the galas, what have you seen? I'm sure you've seen vulnerability and transparency like never before
Oh
from
my
medical
goodness.
professionals. So what
Yes.
has that looked like?
And they are so appreciative because when you think about it, the peace of mind that when we found our primary nurses that, and that we knew if we couldn't be there, we have a trusted nurse that knows about our
Mm-hmm.
child, that can care for them. So it's a true relationship that you build. Like I said, Charlie's been home now for what, he just turned 8 on Sunday, and
Mm.
some of them came to his birthday party. Or like,
Wow.
like it's still, we are still like his
Yeah.
aunt. Send them pictures. And it's truly, when I say it takes a village. Our nursing company, that was in our home, that's how we ended up the organization on Good Morning America, is because when he was
Mm.
graduating, he no longer needed services. His third birthday was approaching, and the nursing company, Optimum Pediatric Services, they said, we can't say goodbye to him like this. We're going to throw him a birthday parade. And it was like right around COVID ending. And I'm like, okay. And his nurses, doctors, Cobb County police fire trucks came through our neighborhood, and we had a graduation where he had on like a cap and gown, and Fox
Mm-hmm.
5 reached out and it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So it was like a story of hope of sharing him no longer needing, being like living on a ventilator, and basically saying
Wow.
he's thriving. And then Good Morning America reached out to us saying they saw the segment from Fox 5. So not only did it give a story of hope for families now in Atlanta, now it's all over the world. And I
Wow.
mean, all the way to Africa. When I say articles everywhere, but then more families started to reach out saying, hey, can you send packages here? So now we support hospitals in Connecticut, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and we have ambassadors in different locations that deliver the packages. And I'm like, here again, when I went back talking about the fear of, I just want to help people here in Atlanta. And
Mm-hmm.
God said, no, I have bigger for you. And then,
Yeah.
just past May, we went to Africa and we supported families there.
Wow.
And I'm just like, you can't tell me this is not God. So when people say what you're doing is amazing, I'm like, I really don't take any credit. I give all credit to
Mm-hmm.
God, because when He told me, I'm going to show you why, this is the why.
Wow. That you actually started to answer another question I had, Alina, because God does what he does. We just participate in it. The
Hmm.
sheer scale, like you said, people start reaching out from out of states. Now you've got in Africa, and you mentioned ambassadors. So is it an ambassador program? Because I can only imagine people don't even know the half of the need that's out there. But as more people reach out, Alina, and growing from 2018 to 2025 and into 2026, how do you even handle the scale of, okay, we're here to help, but how in the world are we going to get to, how do you
Let's
even decide
Yes,
how to do that?
because I tell people all the time, I do not want to do this by myself. So
Hmm.
I'm so grateful when I say the people, family, friends, volunteers that show up to make sure that we keep our initiatives going. It's an outpour. So that's when I say, like, sometimes I get emotional because I'm like, okay, people know my heart, but they believe in the mission. They see the work that we're doing. So
Hmm.
in North Carolina and South Carolina, my goddaughter, she's the ambassador for, her name is Blythe Banks. So she's in pageants. She's Miss Teen USA. I don't want to mess up her title, but
Mm-hmm.
she delivers to Levine Hospital and Wake Med Hospital. And then
Mm.
Thea Dennis, she's actually the mom that when we decided on the trach, I saw her on social media out with her son who had a trach, and I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, I have some questions." She didn't know me from a can of paint, and she
Wow.
said, "Here's my number." And I always tell her, I'm like, she gave me the peace of mind that I needed about saying yes to the trach. So she's the ambassador for
Wow.
the Children's Hospital of Connecticut, her and her son. So they deliver the packages there. So it's truly like when I say it's Trust Your Strength, but we connect to other organizations. And I'm like, the more
Mm.
families we can help, the more people involved, the more work we can do. So it
Wow.
truly is a community effort. And then the businesses, like the sponsors that we have, because we started off real small. So when I say
Mm-hmm.
like, people all over the world started to hear about Trust Your Strength, we didn't have the resources to create all these packages. But then I started asking, reaching out to different businesses and organizations saying, hey, would you sponsor, our care packages for Christmas? And they always say yes. They always say yes. So
Mm.
the businesses pour in and we have packing parties and we'll right before Christmas is our next one, and we deliver the packages together. So it's really a community effort of
Wow.
people that believe in the mission. So I'm thankful.
That is just the awesomeness of God,
Yes.
Alena. The you mentioned one organization earlier. I think you said Father Movement
Father
because there's
movement.
the
Yes.
men Father Movement. What other, so talk a little bit about what they do from the male perspective, and
Mhm.
then are there other partnerships? Because I'm sure, I mean, the
Yes.
NICU, there's so many needs that either the parents or the children have. So
Mhm.
talk about Father Movement and then other organizations that have said, "Hey, we love what you're doing. How can we help?"
Yes. So Father Movement, their organization is around strengthening the fathers in the household. So they have different events. They have like Olympics for fathers. Like if it's fathers that are their wives and girlfriends are pregnant, and they're teaching them how to change diapers and care for their babies. So they have different things going on. But how we've connected with them is whenever we have like self-care events. And I say that why create something? Like I said, I'm not a man, so I don't really understand what a man needs. So I'll pull Chris in and say, hey, do you want to partner in this self-care event? And he'll come in and he'll speak from a man's perspective, a father perspective. At our gala, he's moderated the panels for the men to be able to speak and talk about the journeys that they've been on. Optimum Pediatric Services, they've been one of our biggest corporate sponsors from the beginning. And again, they're the nursing company that cared for Charlie when he was here.
Mm,
And they've been amazing. They sponsored the gala and several other events, Black owned company as well. And it's truly a family oriented company. Um, who else? The Turner Collective Real Estate Group. So we actually partner with them. Angel Turner, she's on our board, and she's actually the community outreach director for Trust Your Strength, and she's been supportive
wow.
for the last 3 years. And we partnered with her for the gala this past August. Smith Gourmet Creations is a local restaurant here. When we need food at the events, he always says yes and provides food and catering services for our events that we have for families. So a lot of different business. So when we think about the events that we're putting on, I'm always reaching out like, hey, this is what we need. And when I say I'm just always so grateful. So we even honor them at the gala as well because they're running businesses and they're
Oh
saying yes.
yeah.
We want to make sure that we not only, let them know how thankful we are for them, but even the people that come to the gala support these businesses because they believe in the mission that we have, and we can't do it without them. BMW South of Atlanta have been a sponsor as well. So a lot of different businesses have sponsored us over the years.
Wow. The impact is just continues to grow more and more
Yes.
every year. Alina, if it's even, if you can even give a picture of where things are going, because it just seems like it's just the snowball continues to gain momentum. But where do you see the organization going in 2026? What are you excited about or passionate about? Or if somebody, if you had a new group ambassador, if they're
Mhm.
coming to you and they're like, Alina, what's next in
I'm
26?
truly,
What would you
yeah.
tell them?
I'm truly excited about the work that we are doing in Africa
Okay.
because it's so different from what we do here. Like I said, we started as saying we're going to help just a few people here. But then when I went there last May, it's for the International Kangaroo Care Day. So it's when
Mm.
you hold your baby skin to skin. And when you think about, when you talked
Mm.
about the healthcare system here, it's care first here and then they bill us later, right? But in
Hmm.
Africa, it's funds first and care later. So the
Got it.
amount of babies that are passing away because one, the parents are not financially able to pay for a isolate or incubator for their baby. The ask is to create kangaroo care rooms so the parents
Mm.
can actually have skin to skin with their babies, and that's helping them. That's helping save their lives and for them to thrive. So
Wow.
another thing is that they don't have the resources. When we went into the hospitals, the babies didn't even have blankets. They were wrapped in their parents, their mom's garment.
Wow.
So we're providing blankets, diapers, wipes, and the things, just things that come, that we is normal to us. They don't
Right.
even have, and that was really heartbreaking. That was
Hmm.
heartbreaking, but like I said, this year I went by myself last year, just from a trust your strength standpoint. But we
Hmm.
partnered with VIP Socio Cote d'Ivoire, so we were in Abidjan, and then Bienante, we partnered with them as well. And then this year we're actually going to bring some NICU moms back, as well as some of our sponsors. Like Play Pits is another business
Mm.
that's been supportive. It's a Black-owned deodorant line where she
Wow.
supports for her kids, and now she has a deodorant for moms and dads, so in the entire family. And we're
Hmm.
hopeful that she's going to come back and be able to provide some resources for them as well. So when I think about what we're doing, is I always say it's bigger than us, right? So
Yeah.
I thought about trust your strength going, but when I was there, my mind started to go to, okay, who can come back with me? What other parents can come share their journey and provide hope? What other businesses can come provide resources as well, so that we can
Mm.
all work together to help save these lives?
My goodness. Folks, if this isn't inspiring, I don't know what else to tell you. Uh, Alena, by now you've given wisdom. You've been very vulnerable and transparent. You've talked about the story. You've talked about the impact. How do people reach out about Trust Your Strength? How do they get in touch with you? If they want to volunteer, where can people find you?
Yes. So before I answer that, there's one other business I wanted to shout out to,
Mhm.
Georgia Best Child Care Center. So when we talked
Mm.
about just the different stages of life after NICU, once your
Hmm.
child gets home, but then it's now time to go to school. And Georgia Best Child Care Center has been an amazing sponsor as well. And they were the center that cared for Charlie. And not only was the owner a NICU mom, Charlie's teacher at the time, her daughter was the baby that was in the NICU. So that was
Oh,
another God
wow.
moment, right? So when I say like the people that are outpouring of support, I always say he always positions me around the right people to believe and help expand the work that we're doing. So
Mm.
wanted to shout them out because they were extremely instrumental when Charlie started school at 3. He didn't even know how to talk. Like he still had to
Mm.
learn, several different stages of life after the NICU, and we have not done this by ourselves. So I wanted to definitely talk about them as well. But you can find us on our website, trustyourstrength.org. If you know a family that is in need, because we mail out packages. So if it's outside of our delivery times, if a family reaches out and fills out a medical questionnaire and they're in
Hmm.
need, we'll mail out packages. We also provide gas cards as well. So that was the other thing I didn't say earlier, because as you can imagine, some families have to, commute back and forth, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
So we definitely try to help financially in the transportation area as well. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and just got on TikTok. But it's trust underscore your underscore strength is where you can find us. And you'll see some stories like I said, I try to be mindful of the stories that we share, but families will reach out to us and say, can you share my baby story? So then you can go on there and see some of the miracles and see from when they were in the NICU and see them now and how they've grown. So
Wow.
that's another way to see, just some of the inspiring stories of hope, that things do get better.
Hmm. It's a great way to chronicle the journey too,
Yeah.
is to have hear directly from the children. So that's
Yeah.
amazing how you all work that in. Well, Alena, just thank you so much for hanging out with us here on the Fortified Life podcast. We're gonna definitely have to have
Yes,
you back
I
on the
can
show.
wait.
This is just this conversation and the need that's out
Hmm.
there. It just more people need to know and become
Yes,
aware of what's happening. So we'll like the Avengers movies,
yes.
how they say so and so will return. Alena will return to
Thank
the
you so much for
Fortified
having
Life
me.
podcast. But thank
Yeah,
you so much, Alena.
no problem. Thank you.
Well, folks, you know how we end things here on the Fortified Life podcast. Don't compartmentalize your faith in the marketplace. And from the boardroom to the bathroom, God is with you. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube channel at The Fortified Life and subscribe to the Fortified Life podcast on your platform of choice: Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen. We'll see you next time on the
Yeah,
Fortified Life podcast.
thank you.